Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man, with this slump that I'm on. The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. Friday, February 20th. I hate the board tonight. It's not a huge board. I will give out one college basketball play. Not sure how much I even love it. I don't like the NBA board. It's a good thing I didn't do anything with the NBA last night because I was wrong about most of the games. So, yeah, it was not good. My read on the NBA last night, which is why I tend to not dive really hard into the NBA right out of the All-Star break. But, you know, we'll talk about it. I'll mention Olympic hockey, I guess, briefly. Yeah, and that'll be it. All right. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? And thanks for hanging out for the bracketology show last night. Really, it was just Garrett in there last night, and I was I was making fun of his Charlotte bet. You know, I'm just saying, don't bet with your bias just because that's like the team that you like is all I'm saying. And Houston should have covered that. They were winning by double digits with 4 minutes left in that game, dude. So, you know, yeah, I think Charlotte was a really, really lucky cover on that one. Even though they were winning earlier in the game, Houston had turned it on and put that game away. I don't know what they did in the final couple of minutes. Speaking of the final couple of minutes, though, my plays last night, William and Mary did not get there, and that was the only one where the market read wound up disagreeing with me after the number did move up, but I liked the spot, and they looked like they were going to win that game. They were winning the majority of that game, even though if you look at the game statistically, you know, they weren't actually really outplaying Campbell in the game statistically, but William and Mary, they were up 8 at halftime. They blew most of the lead, but then they got the lead back. They had the lead. You know, they had the lead for the majority of the game. They just couldn't really pull away. And then at the end, they're winning the game with 4 seconds left. And Campbell had a nice play at the end of the game. They drove to the basket. William and Mary, I mean, they were trying not to foul, but, you know, I don't know. They let Campbell get a drive to the basket. It was defended, but still, Campbell got the ball. I mean, Campbell got the basket, I should say, and they won the game at the buzzer. So we were literally less than a second away from going 3-0 last night on the show. We went 2-1. That was the loser. You know, very, very close game. Unfortunately, I watched the end of it too, which usually I don't. I did watch the end of the Citadel game as well. That game, that was what I was talking about with the final 2 minutes, because I'm looking at the scores, and I'm like, all right, we're going to win the William and Mary play, and we're going to lose the Citadel play. Well, at halftime, I was like, we're going to win both, because the Citadel were winning outright at halftime. They're winning by 3 at the half. I'm like, they're going to cover this. Like, all they have to do is not get outscored by 14 in the second half. Oh, yeah, but then they actually proceeded to do exactly that. They were getting outscored by 20 throughout most of the second half. So then everything flipped, and then I'm like, oh, we're actually going to get the Citadel wrong and William and Mary right. And then the opposite wound up happening. Like in a 2-minute span, those games both flipped again. And the Citadel, dude, I don't know what happened in that game at the end of it. I mean, I had some of it. I was watching some of it, but it was like they were down 17 with 2 minutes left, and they almost won. So, yeah, I don't know what exactly happened in that game with who were they playing against? Samford. I think they just went home early, basically, and the Citadel were, like, not so fast. And the Citadel cut that game to, like, 2 points, I think. Maybe even 1. That was insane. Like, down 17 with 2 minutes to go, you're not even going to cover the 10.5. But they did that, and they almost won the game. I think they only lost by a couple of points. And then we got Georgia State, right, although that game was a little bit close. It was kind of uncomfortable, although they were winning for most of the game. They wound up winning, I think, by only 2, but they did have the lead in the final minute of the game. I think they were winning by 3 with not much time left. I think they committed a foul, probably intentionally. I didn't see the end of that game, but you know when you're up 3 with a few seconds left, a lot of times you'll intentionally foul so that the team can't get a 3-point attempt off, you know what I mean? So I think that's what happened because Georgia Southern only got 1 more point. So they probably made one of the free throws. They probably missed one intentionally to try to get the ball back and didn't do it. So we did win that one with Georgia State. All right, let's get into today, man. CBS Sports, for some reason, at 6:30 is giving us Akron and Ball State. I mean, Akron's a good team. Ball State is not a good team. Akron did already beat Ball State at home by 10, but obviously Akron did not cover that number because they're favored by more than 10 on the road here. So you know they must have been like a 20-point favorite in that game against Ball State, but they probably just kind of went through the motions. They won by 10. I don't know if that means they're really going to take Ball State seriously here, though. It is a 4th road game in 5 games for Akron, which isn't exactly that easy. They got Buffalo on deck and then Kent State. I mean, Ball State is literally at the bottom of the standings here, so if they're going to overlook anybody in the conference, it may very well be Ball State. Ball State, they're coming into this game off of losing again to Ohio. I don't know how competitive they were in this game. They were obviously big underdogs. Yeah, I mean, they were down 8 late in the game. It wasn't a horrible performance from them. I'd probably still have to lean to taking the points with Ball State in this one. It looks like that's where the money is coming. Akron's up to a 14.5-point favorite. 75% of the tickets are on them. 73% of the cash on Ball State. I think Akron will win the game, but, I mean, if I was going to have to decide on the spread, I guess I would lean to Ball State there. Next game is my one play of the day, and you pretty much know where I'm going with this. This is ESPN 2 at 7 p.m. This is the best matchup in the Atlantic 10, man. These are the 2 best teams in the Atlantic 10. We're going to take VCU plus 7.5 against St. Louis. VCU, this is game of the year type of stuff for VCU, man. Even though, yes, St. Louis will show up for this as well. This game has huge bearing on who's going to win the A10 regular season title. It doesn't really have bearing on home advantage or anything like that in the tournament because the tournament, I believe the tournament's on a neutral site, or at least the late tournament games, I think, are at least on a neutral site. I think they play in Washington, D.C. or something like that, although that'll help George Washington if that's the case. But yeah, VCU, they did just beat George Washington, but they're not going to overlook St. Louis, man. VCU's on a nice roll here. They got momentum. They're on, I think, a 9-game win streak, 10-game win streak, and that's the kind of win streak I'm not going to try to jump in front of, to get busted. Although, of course, I'm not saying VCU is going to win this game. I am saying that I think they're going to cover the game. Now, these 2 teams did already play at VCU, and St. Louis won the game, so we have a road revenge angle working for us for VCU here. So that's one angle that I do like. When a team lost the first game and didn't cover, and in this case, VCU was actually favored, believe it or not, so that's an angle that I like as well, even though they're only 1.5-point favorites. When a team is at home and they're favored, and then they lose that game, and then they're on the road the next game, I like looking at that road team, so we have that angle working for us. So if you look at what happened in this box score, St. Louis won the game by 9, but VCU had an atrocious shooting performance. They shot 29% from the field, man. So there are definitely some outliers going on in this game. Rebounds were exactly even in the game, so this was a much closer game than the final score makes it look. It was just VCU had a horrific shooting game, and that was really the one real outlier there was that shooting percentage. Even though, yeah, VCU did get to the line more, but even so, I think we should see some sort of regression, positive regression for VCU. I don't think they're going to shoot that poorly again. So that's what we have to look at in this one. And then the other part of the situation is, of course, one of the other angles that I've liked to talk about this year, although I've only actually used it a couple of times for actual plays, but when you have a team that is on a massive win streak like St. Louis was, and they lost the win streak, St. Louis literally had one loss on the season. It was in a neutral site game against Stanford, a 1-point loss for St. Louis way back in November. They literally had not lost since November, so they hadn't lost for getting close to 3 months, and then they finally lost a game. You know I like to fade a team when all that momentum gets lost, when you haven't lost since the beginning of the season, basically, and you've won that many games in a row. They had won 18 games in a row and then finally lost that, losing to Rhode Island last time out. And I liked Rhode Island as a side. I didn't really think St. Louis was going to lose outright, but they did. It was a third road game in 4 games for them, whatever. But when a team loses, even if it was a loss as a big favorite, a lot of times they'll say, well, that team should bounce back after they lose as a big favorite. Not in this case. When a team, again, when they lose a massive win streak like this, I think it can hang them over into the next game, and they can effectively lose the same game twice. So that's where we're going with this. And then when we look at KenPom here, these teams are not separated by that much. I think VCU is good enough to be a tournament team. He's got St. Louis, even though they're ranked 18th in the country, he's got them 26th. So outside the top 25. VCU is at 45th. VCU is in the top 70 in both offense and defense, although St. Louis is in the top 41 in both. But the offenses are both almost rated the same. Just St. Louis does have the better defense. We got to keep that in mind. Both teams actually play fast this year, so there's not going to be any sort of real tempo mismatch here. I don't think both teams will just play pretty much at the pace they prefer. And then if you look at the luck index, St. Louis is more than 100 ranking spots higher in luck. So KenPom is telling you St. Louis has overperformed a bit. VCU has underperformed a bit, and VCU has faced a more difficult schedule as well. St. Louis is about 70 ranking spots lower in strength of schedule. So KenPom's metrics bear this out a little bit, although I believe he does have this number around 7 or 8. But we're going to do it. VCU will be my one play of the day. They look like they are getting the money here. The line's already dropped to 7. 58% of the tickets, 87% of the cash on VCU. I think the public, they're going to have a tendency to think St. Louis is going to bounce back. Like, that's what they tend to think. Oh, this team that's winning every single game, they finally lose a game, right? The public's going to be like, they're certainly going to bounce back. Like, they beat VCU on the road. How could they not win at home, right? And St. Louis team that had one loss prior to their last game, the public always thinks that team's just going to bounce right back from that. But that is typically not what actually happens. So VCU will be the play there. She's squealed. What's up, man? What's going on? Thanks for hanging out. All right. Let's see. St. Peter's and Iona is kind of an interesting game in the MAAC conference. St. Peter's, they already played Iona once. They did win by 14 at home, so you do have a little bit of a revenge angle in mind here for Iona. It is possible that St. Peter's doesn't take Iona seriously. Now, St. Peter's, they did just beat Fairfield, who is above Iona in the standings, but St. Peter's has Siena up next, even though they already beat Siena once. That's a big game. Siena's right behind them in the standings, so there is definitely a potential look ahead here. And Iona is coming off a pretty ugly loss to Niagara. Niagara's really bad. Iona was playing a bunch of road games in quick succession there. Now they're back at home, and they lost their last home game to Mount St. Mary's and actually the prior one to Fairfield. So I like that angle when a team's returning home. from a couple games on the road in college, and they didn't play well in their last home game. I think they tend to step up their game quite a bit, so I like Iona in this game. I don't think St. Peter's is as good as their record looks either. Ken Bum kind of bears that out as well. With St. Peter's only being 242nd in the country. He's got Iona 15 ranking spots lower, and Iona is lucky, but so is St. Peter's. So both teams have overperformed a bit, but if people are going to look at this and want some action on it, they're also going to see, well, how am I getting basically a pick the winner price on St. Peter's here when they have the way better record, right? It looks too easy to play St. Peter's at like 1.5 or whatever. So I would lean towards Iona in that game. The money is disagreeing with me on that. St. Peter's is a 1-point favorite. 82% of the cash on them, 75% of tickets on Iona. There's no way that I buy that there's an actual public ticket percentage on Iona in that game. But yeah, I would lean to Iona there. Any other games that are of interest here? I looked at Milwaukee and Detroit Mercy briefly. Milwaukee lost to Detroit Mercy at home the first time, and they were like 6.5-point favorites in that game. So that is an angle I like to use when a substantial home favorite lost the first meeting and they play that team again on the road. They usually tend to do better in that road game. But I have my issues with how this sets up for Milwaukee here. They did just beat Green Bay, and they have Oakland on deck. So you could make the argument this is a sandwich spot. I mean, Milwaukee and Green Bay, they're rivals. They're both like at least former affiliates or branches of the University of Wisconsin, whatever they are. They're Wisconsin rivals, so that was a big game. Green Bay's near the top of the standings, and Oakland is one of the best teams in the horizon, and that's who Milwaukee has on deck. So I do have my concerns that this is a sandwich spot here, even though they are also in a road revenge angle. But they're also playing a third road game in 4 games, which is not that easy. For Detroit Mercy, they did just beat Youngstown. That was a decent win for them. They got Green Bay on deck, so they do have the potential that they might just look past Milwaukee because they already beat Milwaukee on the road. So, I'm still going to lean towards Milwaukee in this game, but I don't love it. Detroit's a 1.5-point favorite in this one. Don't really see the percentages yet, but yeah, I would slightly lean towards Milwaukee in that one. And then Green Bay and Oakland in that same conference is an interesting game. Although Oakland is definitely the better team. They will be the favorite here. These pictures of Doug Gottlieb are just insane, dude. He got banned, apparently. I guess he's not coaching in the game tonight. He got a 1-game ban for yelling at the refs and then trashing them after the game after they lost to Milwaukee. So that's great. So I think Doug Gottlieb will not be coaching this game. He's out of control, man. He threw a chair earlier this year, but it was not cool like Bobby Knight. He took a chair like as he was exiting the stadium, and you couldn't really see him do it. Be Bobby Knight, man. Just throw it right onto the court. So yeah, Doug Gottlieb, he won't be coaching in this game. So I don't know, dude. I don't know. Maybe his outburst will fire his team up. I don't know. But they are coming off that loss to Milwaukee. That was a big rivalry game, like I said. They're playing another road game here, although I don't think they're going to overlook Oakland, man. And Oakland embarrassed them at home by 25 points earlier this year. So I actually think Green Bay might get up for this game, and they might play hard for whoever the assistant coach is that's going to coach this game. Oakland is coming off 3 straight losses, though, and they got absolutely embarrassed in their last game by Robert Morris. So it's not like Oakland's in a bad spot here. Even though they did beat Green Bay on the road, I just don't see how they overlooked them when they've had 3 losses in a row. But that recent loss was just horrendous against Robert Morris. So I would think that Oakland would show up in this game as well, but I do actually lean to Green Bay. I would take the points here. Oakland's a 7 or 6.5 point favorite here. 50% of the tickets, 95% of the cash on Green Bay. I agree with that money in that one. I would look towards Green Bay in that one plus the points, but I don't have a strong opinion on it. Yeah, yeah, Doug Gottlieb, man, he's I don't like him as an analyst. I don't really like him as a coach either, but it's entertaining to watch what he's out there doing. So, all right. Then we got Fox at 8 p.m. We have the big game of the night is Indiana at number 7, Purdue. This is a rematch, and this is an Indiana rivalry game. Indiana actually beat Purdue at home earlier this year. So there is a little bit of a revenge angle for Purdue here. Indiana's had a lot of time off. I think they haven't played for like almost a week here. They lost their last game at Illinois by 20 points. So they probably will show up in this game. I think there's no doubt about that. They consider themselves to be the little brother now to Purdue. So I think you will get an effort out of Indiana here. I think you'll get an effort out of Purdue too, though. Purdue did just lose a 4-game win streak, but they didn't do well against Michigan. But it was a big game. It was a game you do get up emotionally for. But I don't really see them overlooking Indiana because they did lose to Indiana earlier this year, although Purdue does have Michigan State on deck. Purdue, we know they're already going to be like either a 2 or a 3 seed in the tournament. So you could make the argument this game means more to Indiana. If you saw my bracketology last night, Purdue is obviously in the tournament. They will be a high seed. Indiana is still a bubble team, so Indiana, there is a little bit maybe more motivation on the Indiana side here, and they're going to be getting a lot of points against a slow-down team. Purdue up from 10.5 to 11 here. 67% of tickets, 80% of the cash on Purdue. I would probably lean towards taking the points with Indiana in this one. I think Purdue will be the public side. I think the public expectation here, the public will lay the points with the ranked team. They'll think, Purdue is in revenge mode. Purdue just lost to a great Michigan team. They should bounce back here. I'm not sure it's that easy, and Purdue does play slow. We know this, so they're going to slow the game down at home. The total's not that high in the 140s, so I know Purdue does play really well offensively, even though they play slow, but they do still get into some of these like low-scoring games at home because of the slow pace, so I don't know. Those are my thoughts on that. ESPN U at 8 p.m., Siena at Merrimack. These are actually probably legitimately the top 2 teams in the MAAC conference. As I told you, I don't think St. Peter's is as good as their record looks. Siena and Merrimack already played once, and Siena lost at home as a favorite. So I think they're probably about a 3.5-point favorite, I would guess, in that game. So they're in a road revenge angle here. 5.5, actually, my mistake. So Siena lost as a decent-sized favorite at home, and I like to look at that angle. I like the road team to bounce back when they play that team again on the road. So I do like Siena here, but I do have some issues with it. They're playing a third road game in 4 games, and they played a bunch of difficult games in a row, man. They had to go to St. Peter's. They were at home against Quinnipiac, which I believe I gave out a lean on Quinnipiac in that one. Then they had to go to Marist, and they won that game. Those are 3 big games, man, against 3 of the better teams in the conference. Now they're basically facing the top 4 teams besides them in the conference all in a row. So that's not that easy to do, and having to do most of that on the road. So even though I'll lean to Siena here, there's I don't love how the scheduling spot sets up for them. Merrimack's won 6 games in a row. They did just win at Quinnipiac, which was a nice win for them, off of a very satisfying blowout win of Marist the game before that. So yeah, you could make the argument it's not that much easier for Merrimack here. They are at home, though, but they've been traveling a bit. They're coming off 2 big wins themselves. So I'm going to lean to Siena in the road revenge angle, but not something that's going to be on my card. Merrimack's a 3-point favorite here. 50% of tickets, 91% of the cash on Siena. Merrimack does get themselves in a lot of ugly, low-scoring games, too, so asking them to cover is usually something I don't like to do. Cover as a favorite, although they're a small favorite in that game. And then CBS Sports at 8:30. Bowling Green is at number 22, Miami, Ohio. Number 22, Miami, Ohio, who still has not lost a game. And they keep setting up decently, man. Miami, Ohio keeps catching these teams in decent scheduling spots to catch them. Although this scheduling spot is both good and bad, I would say, for Bowling Green. Now, Bowling Green lost to Miami, Ohio at home earlier this year. Bowling Green, believe it or not, were a 6-point favorite in that game, and they lost by 10. Now, you could make the argument that line was a little bit off, okay, but if they were a 6-point favorite on the road, they really should probably be maybe a 1-point dog in this game, and they're a much, much bigger dog than that here now, so this line has changed probably way too much. So I do think there is line value on Bowling Green here. The fact that Bowling Green was a 6-point favorite, yeah, even if that wasn't right, and even if you think, well, maybe they should have been a maybe even let's say they should have been a 3-point home favorite in that game. There still should not be this swing to Miami, Ohio being like an 8-point favorite here or whatever they are. So I think there is line value on the Bowling Green side here. And because they lost at home as a favorite, that puts them in the road revenge angle as well. And Bowling Green is good on defense. So you're getting the better, I think you're getting the better defense. I'll look at KenPom in a minute, but I think you're getting the better defense getting points in a road revenge angle. So I like all those angles. But the thing I don't like is that Bowling Green just had a big game against Kent State. So again, Miami, Ohio catches a team coming off a big game. Like Miami, Ohio just caught UMass coming off a game against Akron. And Miami, Ohio was going to pay attention to UMass, I thought, because UMass almost beat them at Miami, Ohio. So Miami, Ohio had the advantage in that scheduling spot. They have at least one advantage in this scheduling spot, which is Bowling Green's coming off of Kent State. So they might be tired coming into this game. But at the very least, Bowling Green does have the road revenge angle working for them here. Miami, Ohio, we know they're undefeated. Yeah. They're probably going to end the regular season undefeated at this point. Their biggest remaining test will be the road game at Ohio to finish the regular season. I still don't think they're as good as Akron. I still don't buy Miami, Ohio. They face look at how weak their schedule was out of conference, dude. The best win that they got was against Wright State in the out of conference. So, this is not a good Miami. It's not a great Miami, Ohio team. Let's put it that way. KenPom still has them in the 80s ranking-wise. That's Miami, Florida. Hold on. Miami, Florida's in the 40s. Yeah, Miami, Ohio, 87. They're the 16th luckiest team in the country. They're a bottom 60 strength of schedule. And they're not very good defensively. They're a mid-tier defensive team. They're a pretty good offense, and they play fast. Now, Bowling Green, they are the better defense here. Like I said, Bowling Green's not good on offense. They are good on defense. They're not a horrible team. They're very unlucky, according to KenPom. They're bottom 20 in luck. And Bowling Green, believe it or not, actually does play somewhat fast, so they won't totally be thrown off by this fast tempo that, Miami, Ohio is going to run. I would have to take Bowling Green plus the points in this game if I was going to play it. Miami, Ohio's laying 8 points. Like I said, I think that line is also too high, although KenPom, I think, has the number around 7 or 8, but I still think that that's too much of a shift from the first game. 90% of the tickets, 63% in the cash on Miami, Ohio. Yeah, so I agree with the market in that one. Miami, Ohio is going to be an extremely public side. But, yeah, I would take the points with Bowling Green. And you know that, dude, Miami, Ohio, at some point, they're going to lose a game that people don't expect them to lose. And, maybe it'll be this one. Who knows? Maybe it'll be one where there's a road revenge angle and the better defense is getting points, Bowling Green's not a bad team. So that's what I have to say about that. All right, we'll talk about the NBA here. I think there are like 8 NBA games here, and then I got to get out of here. I don't have anything in the NBA. I hate these games today. NBA, we do have some games where some teams played yesterday, and other teams have been off since the All-Star break. But what I talk about is, when teams are coming back from the All-Star break, you have to look at how they went into the All-Star break. Because if they went into the All-Star break on a good note, I don't think the All-Star break helps. I think the rest hurts them because it'll end their momentum. But I think if they went into the All-Star break on a bad note, the rest is good for them because it'll break that losing momentum. Yeah, so hold on. Give me a second. I'll be right back. And we're going to go intermission here, and then I'll do the NBA. I'm going to show the NBA board here for you, though. We have 8 games today, I believe, or yesterday we had more than that, I believe. All right, 1 second. All right, NBA. First game up is Cleveland at Charlotte. Both of these teams played yesterday. Cleveland had the much easier game yesterday, beating Brooklyn in a blowout. I thought Brooklyn might set up to play better in that game. That did not happen. Cleveland is going to be a really dangerous team in the playoffs, which I don't like as a Celtic fan. Now, Cleveland does have Oklahoma City on deck in a TV game. That is a big game on Sunday, and the Knicks after that. So you could make the argument there is a potential that they overlook Charlotte here. They did beat Charlotte at Charlotte back on January 21st by 7. So, there are some arguments to be made for Charlotte here, but Charlotte had a tough game last night, a much more difficult game against Houston, although they are staying at home here, so that helps them a little bit. I'm back and forth on this game. It's not a game I would want to have anything to do with, really, but the Cavs are getting the money, and, I don't really disagree with that, but they are up to a 6-point favorite. I think they are definitely, one of the top teams in the East right now, though. 85% of tickets, 95% of the cash on them. They're up from a 4.5-point favorite to a 6-point favorite. I lean towards the Cavs. I don't know about that number, though. The number does seem a bit high at this point, but I don't think I would want to play Charlotte in that spot, so I think the Cavs will win. I don't know whether or not they'll cover. I kind of lean that way. Indiana and Washington, we have a zigzag spot here, and I liked Washington. That was one of the reads I was correct on yesterday because they had gone into the break on a bad losing streak, so I thought the break would end their losing streak, which it did. Indiana took the loss. If you look at what happened in this game, the major outlier in this game was the turnovers. Indiana was minus 13 in turnovers, so that's why they lost the game. They would have won the game otherwise. They out-rebounded Washington. They were the better team, so my guess is that Indiana will clean that up and that the zigzag actually will work in this one. I like Indiana in this one to bounce back from that bad performance in the prior game. When you replay the same game over again, if something was an outlier in that first game, I think you want to look to fade what happened. There's the potential Washington looks ahead to Charlotte in the next game because they're playing a team they just beat yesterday. And the Pacers were 2.5-point favorites last night, and now they're only a 1.5-point favorite. So I think you're getting a little bit of line value for no reason other than the fact the Pacers lost last night. So 83% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on the Pacers. I absolutely think the Pacers can clean that up and not have 23 turnovers again. So I would lean to the Pacers in that one. All right, Utah and Memphis. And I would lay the points in college basketball specifically, if you have a 1.5, 2-point favorite, it's advantageous to actually play the money line instead. But in the NBA, I don't think that's the case. So I think laying the points would be the way to go in that one. Utah and Memphis, these teams have not played since before the All-Star break. Utah lost pretty badly at home to Portland, although Utah is, tanking in a way because they are benching their best players late in games now, and they now no longer have Jackson. He's been shut down for the season after they traded for him. They know they're not going anywhere this year, so he's injured and he's out for the season. So that's something that's going on with Utah here. Both of these teams are complete mash units, dude. Both of these teams have nobody playing for them, as far as I can tell. Nurkic looks like he's out for Utah as well. Kessler, we already know, has been out for the season for quite a while. For Memphis, they have a pretty large injury list as well. I don't know if Walter Clayton Jr. is going to suit up for this game. They got him in the trade, I think. He's doubtful, so he's not playing. It's just a mess of a game where you're going to get backups versus backups. Very, very hard to predict anything about this game, man. And I believe both teams went into the All-Star break on a loss as well. So there's no, scheduling dynamic advantage one way or the other. For Memphis, I'm assuming they don't have I don't even see Morant on. Did they trade Morant? I don't think they did. But Morant's not even listed on here, and neither is Zach Edey, so they're both done for the season probably. This is a ridiculous game, dude. It's almost impossible to handicap this thing. Memphis went into the break on a 4-game losing streak. They actually played competitively, though, in the last couple of games. on the road at Golden State and Denver. So that's at least a decent sign that Memphis is out there trying, whereas it seems like the Jazz are not. Memphis is down from a 3.5-point favorite to a pick'em, though, and the money is coming in on the Jazz for what it's worth. 68% of the tickets, 97% of the cash on the Jazz. I probably disagree. I probably lean to Memphis because they had a longer losing streak going into the break, and it looked like they were trying in those games. So I think I probably disagree. The Jazz, they look like they're just intentionally not playing their best players. So, yeah, that's what I think about that. And I believe these are the two teams that traded with each other, right? Like Memphis traded Jackson to Utah. I'm pretty sure, and he's not going to play now against his former team. I don't know. Miami and Atlanta is the first instance of a team playing on huge rest versus a team that played last night. So Miami has a major rest advantage here, but you're going to see that's factored into the line. Miami has not played since before the All-Star break. They beat New Orleans going into the All-Star break, but I don't think that's a big deal. I don't think the All-Star break is going to ruin any real momentum that they had because they didn't really have any. Back on February 3rd, Miami did lose at home to Atlanta, so that's who they're playing here. So they do have a little bit of a quick road revenge angle here against Atlanta, but they were a 1-point favorite at home against Atlanta in that game, and now they're like a 3-point road favorite here against Atlanta. So I don't know that there's a whole lot of line value on Miami here, and some of the line move is because Miami has a huge amount of rest here, whereas Atlanta played yesterday. So the odds makers had to adjust for that huge rest disparity. But I think part of the other reason why the line is where it is because Tyler Herro, I believe, is making his return. We need a hero. He's coming back in this game, and I believe he hasn't played since, I don't know, January probably. So that does make it a reverse injured player spot on Miami. I talk about that when one of your star players comes back. Sometimes there could be an adjustment period. Like he has to get used to playing again. The team has to reassume their roles. It might make it easier that they're doing it coming out of the break, but it might make it worse in a way because they're just not used to playing with them, and now they have to come in cold, and they're all going to be cold out of the break. So I could see that being both good and bad, so it makes this a very hard handicap. But when you have the star player coming back, it does affect the line, and usually you get line value going against that team. But I can't play Atlanta after they had a big win on the road at Philadelphia last night. So they're playing a back-to-back and having to return home from Philadelphia. So I would still have to look at the Heat in this game is the only way to really look at this game. But I don't think I could lay 3.5 on the road here, man. 53% of tickets, 69% of the cash on the Heat. I mean, if you want to try to go money line with it or something like that, that might be okay. I don't know how great the money line prices are going to be on that. But Miami's already up from a 2.5-point favorite to a 3.5-point favorite. It looks like they might wind up being a 4-point favorite. I think Miami will get the job done, but I think it's just too hefty a price there on Miami. ESPN does have a doubleheader here, and the first game is Dallas at Minnesota. And unfortunately for ESPN and for the viewers, Flagg is not back. Remember, Flagg was injured prior to the All-Star break. I thought he would be back out of the All-Star break, but he is not, so he's still not playing. Dallas went into the All-Star break on a huge losing streak. They lost 9 games in a row, I think is what this was. But if you look at the teams that they lost to, most of the teams were good. They lost to the Minnesota team that they're playing tonight at home, by the way. So there is a road revenge angle here for Detroit because they lost at home to Minnesota not that long ago. But the other teams they lost to were the Lakers, Charlotte, Houston, Boston, Spurs twice, Phoenix, Lakers again. So during that losing streak, the Mavericks did not lose to any team that isn't good. So they had a really, really difficult stretch there. So the Mavs are not quite as bad as they might look based on that losing streak. They've had a bunch of time off to break that losing momentum. Yeah, they won't have Flagg here, but obviously that's going to be factored into the line. There is the potential that Minnesota doesn't take them seriously because Minnesota beat them in Dallas, I think in a game that Flagg probably did play. And now they're at home playing against, a Dallas team, a Flaggless Dallas team. And up next, Minnesota does have Philadelphia. Minnesota went into the break on a 2-game win streak. Now, Maybe Minnesota will show up just because they are hosting a TV game, but, I mean, it's the NBA. You're the T-Wolves. You do host a lot of TV games, so I'm still not sure how up they're going to get for this game. I would have to lean to Dallas plus the points in this one. Not going to make my card, but the money's kind of all over the place here. T-Wolves are a 13.5-point favorite here. 67% of tickets, 69% of the cash on them. I would take the points with Dallas, but yeah, I'm skipping it. As I said, I'm skipping this entire board here. Garrett, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Milwaukee at New Orleans. Of course, this is Milwaukee with no Giannis. It's a very injured Milwaukee team right now. Milwaukee went into the break somehow beating Oklahoma City almost by 20 points on the road on a back-to-back with travel. I don't know what happened in that game. Of course, it was Oklahoma City without SGA, but still, Oklahoma City's really, really deep. They're good even without him. I don't know how this Milwaukee team did that. So they went into the break on a really good note. They won 5 of 6 games and pulled off a huge upset. So I think that the break will disrupt their momentum. I think if you're going to look at this game, I think you got to fade Milwaukee. Although they almost got caught by New Orleans last time they played them at Milwaukee. New Orleans took them into overtime. So for that reason, maybe Milwaukee might kind of take them seriously. But I still don't see how you go into the All-Star break off of that massive upset of Oklahoma City and then come out of the All-Star break having potentially lost that momentum that you had from winning 5 of your last 6 games, and get up for this game. I don't really see it. New Orleans went into the break on a bad note, losing to Miami. So I think they will be up for this game. So I would have to lean to the Pelicans. And the Pelicans are a favorite in this game, and they're getting the money. They're up from 3.5 to 4 here. 83% of the cash on them. 51% of the tickets on the Bucks. I have to lean to the Pelicans in this one. This one is almost on my card. I think if I was going to add any of these NBA games today, it would be this one. I would lay it with New Orleans, although I know that sounds crazy. Sounds difficult to do. Looking at the team's records, I mean, absolutely nobody's going to want to lay points with New Orleans in any situation. But there's a reason why they're favored here, man. I think they're the less injured team at this point. I think they have most of their guys pretty much here, although, actually, Murray and Murphy are both out, though. But they do have Queen, Zion, those guys are playing. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I like the Pelicans in that one. And, I might consider it if Milwaukee had a bigger game up next, but I don't think they do. Let me see. Well, they do have Toronto. I mean, Toronto is looking like they might be a playoff team. I'll skip it, but I like the Pelicans in that one. Brooklyn is at Oklahoma City. Brooklyn played yesterday and got absolutely destroyed by Cleveland, but now they're having to travel with no time off from Cleveland to Oklahoma City here. And while I think they'll get up for this game, Oklahoma City went into the All-Star break on that horrible note, losing to Milwaukee, and now they've had the entire All-Star break to fix things, whatever. SGA is still not back. I don't know if he's going to come back for the next game, but the concern for Oklahoma City is that their next game is a big TV game against Cleveland, so there is the potential they look ahead here, but this game, I got to think it's probably Oklahoma City or pass here. Oklahoma City's up to an 18-point favorite, even without SGA. They have a huge rest advantage, so I know that's being factored in, but I think Oklahoma City wins that game in a blowout, but I don't want to, bank on it or anything like that, but if I was going to lean in that game, I would lean towards Oklahoma City covering. The second game of the ESPN doubleheader is LA. Clippers-Lakers. Clippers played yesterday. They beat Denver, too, so they had a nice comeback win against Denver. They're staying in LA here. That was at home, and now they're going to the Lakers. Nice win, though, for the Clippers yesterday, man. Playing on a back-to-back after a big win like that. I don't know if they're going to be able to handle a full-rostered Lakers team because we know the Lakers are back at full strength, man. Luka's been back for a bit. Reeves played the last 3 or 4 games, I think, before the All-Star break. So these guys are all back. LeBron, I assume, is playing as well. So we got a fully intact Lakers team now, and the Lakers have not played since before the All-Star break, so they do have a huge rest advantage here. They beat Dallas going into the All-Star break. I don't think that's a big deal. They do have Boston next on Sunday, and we know that's a massive rivalry, Lakers versus Celtics on NBC. So I don't know. Is there the potential that the Lakers overlook the Clippers? I guess, but because the Clippers just had a massive game yesterday, Lakers have the rest. I would probably have to lay it with the Lakers if I was going to play this. 61% of tickets, 87% of the cash on the Lakers. They're a 6.5-point favorite, and the line is a bit high, I believe, just because, again, the odds makers have to skew this number a bit because of the rest. Like, I think if the rest situation wasn't what it was, the Lakers would probably be like a 4-point favorite here. So, you're not really getting a ton of line value playing the Lakers, but if I was going to do anything with the game, I think I would still have to lay it with the Lakers. And then Denver at Portland. Denver, of course, lost the game yesterday to the Clippers. Tough game, and now they're having to travel from the Clippers to Portland. They might not totally take Portland seriously. And up next, they got Golden State, Boston, Oklahoma City, Minnesota. 4 straight TV games on ABC and ESPN. So those are 4 big games coming up after this Portland game, man. So you could make the argument this is maybe a sandwich, I guess. I would lean to Portland in this one. Portland, I don't believe they played since the All-Star break, so they do have a lot of rest here. So they're the much more rested team, although, of course, that will factor into the number here, though. But I think Portland is still going to be a home underdog in this game, though. Portland, Drew Holiday came back shortly before the All-Star break. I think he will play in this game. He had a couple of good games in there. Portland, the fact they went into the All-Star break winning 4 of 5, I mean, I guess you could argue the All-Star break might hurt their momentum a little bit, but I'm expecting them to show up with the Nuggets coming to town. I would look towards the Blazers in this game if I was going to play it. 72% of the tickets, 60% of the cash on the Nuggets, so they're a public side with less of the money. They are favorites still, although down from 3 to 1.5. But the public's going to look at that and be like, oh, pick the winner. This is easy. Pick the Nuggets, right? The Nuggets should bounce back, but it's a tough spot, man, with travel, with no days off. I would have to lean to the Trailblazers in that game. And those are my thoughts on the NBA, man. I think if I was going to play any of them, it would be the Pelicans, though. But I think the number is just a bit high for my liking there, so we're staying away from all that. I wonder, do we have hockey? Does pregame show us any of the hockey here? All sports. Let's see if they do. I don't think they do. I don't think they have the Olympic hockey in here, man. They just have NHL. But what I can tell you in Olympic hockey is we have the semifinals today, I believe. Actually, probably coming up soon. I might even be missing the boat here on this. I don't know, because I think it's in Italy, right? But for the hockey games, I think it's obviously just destined at this point. I think that you're going to get U.S. versus Canada in the final for men's hockey. I know the U.S. women's team just won. I don't even think women's hockey exists, so I think they beat Canada. But U.S. and Canada are both huge favorites here. One of them is playing Finland. One of them is playing Slovakia. I forget which is even playing which, but I think those games, the favorites are going to win the games easily because both the U.S. and Canada both got taken into overtime in their last games by inferior teams. So I expect a better showing from both the U.S. and Canada. I would be looking towards maybe going over their team totals or something like that in the games today. I'm not an Olympic hockey handicapper, but I know how scheduling dynamics work. And when you had 2 teams that were big favorites who almost lost, I expect both those teams to show up with a lot more intensity. So I think that's what you'll get. I think the U.S. and Canada will both certainly win their respective games today. You could look to lay like puck lines with them maybe, but they're both huge favorites. So the puck lines, you're probably going to be asking them to win by multiple goals, so that might not be that preferable. I think over their team totals might be the way to look for both of those teams. And those are my thoughts on Olympic hockey very briefly there. If one of the teams has a major outlier in the game, though, you might want to look to fade that team in the next game, because I think U.S. versus Canada, almost entirely likely that will be the matchup. I think it's going to be a close line between the U.S. and Canada. I think they're pretty closely matched. I don't think one team is that much better than the other. I think Canada will be a slight favorite. So that's what I'm expecting. but I don't know that much about it. So, but based on what happened in like the Four Nations last year and whatever, but we'll see. I'm watching the Miracle on Ice documentary on Netflix right now, the one that came out not that long ago. So we'll be in Olympic hockey mode at least. And one thing I didn't realize is that back in 1980, I mean, I wasn't alive yet, so I didn't realize this, that the U.S. team was basically all college players that year because NHL players were not allowed to play on the Olympic team, which seems ridiculous. Like the NHL players, like the NHL players who are from the U.S., like they're obviously the best players in the U.S. That's why they're in the NHL, and you're not allowed to have them on the Olympic team. That seems stupid. So I'm glad that changed. Where obviously the NHL players are playing in the Olympics now, but that seems just insane to me that was the case back then. And I think the reason why the U.S. played so well that year was, first of all, the game was in the U.S. It was in Lake Placid, New York, but also there was a lot of continuity there because like a large group of the U.S. team were guys that played at the University of Minnesota, and they had their coach from the University of Minnesota, and all those guys were there and being coached by that coach for the U.S. team. So it kind of reminded me of like, that's why Drake did as well as they did last year, the Drake in college basketball, even though all those guys had moved up from Division II. But when you have guys that have this chemistry together, this core group of players, that's what happened, man. With like Ben McCollum, he brought all of his players up from Division II, and they were Drake last year, and that's why they played so well. And now they've had some of that continuity into Iowa as well, but of course they're playing, they're playing much tougher competition with Iowa, but it does look like they will make the tournament. And I think they have fewer of the guys that they had last year, but they still have a few of them. No, there's no way Canada loses to Finland. It's not going to happen. Absolutely not. Finland just almost, Canada just almost lost their last game, so they're going to show up. They almost lost to some inferior team. No way. You're going to get the better team in a focus spot. Canada's going to blow them out. Finland, who did Finland just beat? I don't even know. Did Finland won in overtime too, didn't they? I don't know. So, I mean, they'll try to show up, but if you're going to get the better team, Canada, in a focus spot, no, I don't think so. Hold on. Finland, who did they just play? I'm looking right now. Milan, Olympics, yeah. They went to overtime against Switzerland. Yes, that wasn't a great performance from them. I'm assuming they were the favorite in that one. But no, I don't think so, especially since the prior game, Finland put up 11 goals against Italy, against the home team. But Italy, I mean, they can't play hockey. So, no, I don't buy that at all. Even though, yeah, Finland did have a tough game in their last game. Like, they had a game where they underperformed in their last game because they were coming off an 11-goal game. But, no, I don't see it. Canada's coming off a bad performance themselves. So, yeah, no, I think Canada wins easily in that game. But that is going to do it. And plus, it's just... Obviously, we're just destined to have U.S. versus Canada. That's the matchup that everybody wants to see. Nobody gives a shit about Finland. Who does Finland even have on their team? Do they have my boy Tuukka Rask? Is he their goalie? He might be. I don't know. But that's, no, I don't think so. Canada's the better team coming off a bad performance. I think they will win by multiple goals in that game. That's going to do it. Once again, my play for today is VCU plus the points in college basketball. We're jumping on the two angles that I like, the road revenge plus the lose the same game twice angle for a team that lost a massive win streak. We'll go with VCU. That's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. You can subscribe to me there. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Subscribe to the channel here. Give me good replies here. Boost this channel. We're on audio as well. Give me good reviews over there. Listen on audio, Spotify, Apple. What else do I have here? I don't even know. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. Like, subscribe, give me replies there too. Patreon.com/LearnToToad to throw me some support. You get some bonus Uke content when I'm paying attention. Losercast, the comedy podcast that I'm on, which is every Tuesday night. You can go check that out too. Check out the bracketology video from last night that I did if you're interested in that. That's up here on the channel already. That's going to do it, and I will be back tonight, I guess, because we got college basketball. We still don't have hockey, so the Saturday will still be a little bit easier for me, but I'll probably have to do college basketball tonight. Last week it was easier for me because it was only college basketball. But we'll do college basketball, and then there will be NBA tomorrow. Unfortunately, I'll have more work to do. Maybe I'll finally have an NBA play again. I feel like I'm skipping the NBA a lot, man, but I'm trying to be selective here. So that's going to do it. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. And, yeah, I'll be back. You'll see the notification when I go live. I don't know if it'll be tonight or tomorrow because I'm going to have a lot of handicapping to do with the Saturday college basketball slate. But I'm going to have some plays because it's a giant board. So that's going to do it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Dirty Sock, Garrett. She squealed. Thanks, guys. I hope Jeffrey is all right. We haven't seen Jeffrey in a long time. He might have splurged his entire bankroll. I don't know. Maybe he's hanging out at Buffalo Wild Wings with no more money to bet. I don't know. I think he's fine because I see him on Twitter a little bit. But, yeah, hopefully he comes back. Come back to us, Jeffrey. All right, that's going to do it for now. Thanks, guys. Happy Friday. Peace.